Without further ado, let me share what will be presented in the next hour. Today we will be exploring the world of Gen AI. We begin by laying the foundation with a background on the evolution of AI technologies leading us to this point. Next, we tackle the question, what is Gen AI? Here we will define Gen AI in a manner that simplified, mystified its complexity and showcase its potential through various use cases. This is crucial for setting the stage for everything that flows. Following that, we will explore how does Gen AI works, and this basically will take us under the hood of Gen AI's technology, explaining the mechanism that enables this system to create, predict, and simulate the power of Gen AI. Our discussion then shift to Gen AI and education. We will highlight how this technology is revolutionizing the education landscape, from personalized learning experience to automate administrative tasks, thereby enriching both teaching and learning processes. I like to call out this word personalized, as this is something that will impact personalized engagement across industries, not just on the education industry alone. And finally, with this personalized engagement, it also raises concern in cybersecurity. The spam email you receive in future will be even more personalized and more convincing and difficult for you to differentiate if it is fake or authentic email. For that, I'll leave it to Mr. Chua, our next speaker, who will provide a more comprehensive download of cybersecurity after my sharing in Gen AI topic. And finally, we will talk about the use cases for Gen AI, where we pinpoint the practical application scenario where Gen AI is not just a theory, but a practical tool driving industry efficiency. So let's get started. So what is Gen AI? Basically, Gen AI creates new content and ideas, including conversational points, whether is it stories, images, videos, and music. Why is Gen AI considered to be so powerful? Now, you can consider the opposite scenario where Gen AI merely recycle existing content and it's not creating new content, right? Sourced from the internet or books. If we are using such an approach, right, it would significantly reduce the relevancy in addressing problems with solutions tailored to your unique needs and the particular context of your issue. But Gen AI is not. Gen AI actually create new contents and new ideas for targeting your problem. So of course, there are more benefits of Gen AI, but for this limited 1 hour session, we look at various Gen AI tools, application, and the prompt engineering techniques. So how do you use prompt engineering techniques to quickly draft out an email, to quickly come up with ideas? We will touch on that shortly. I'd like to start off with a quote by Andrew Ng, the co-founder and head of Google Brain, who said that ChatGPT is a fascinating technology that has the potential to transform the way we communicate with machines. I think this is a very powerful point, the way we communicate with machines using prompt, right? In future, you do not need a very technical person to communicate with machines, with AI, with very sophisticated equipments, right? All you need is a prompt, right? Whether is it prompting through text or prompting through speech itself. Now, Generative AI is the type of artificial intelligence that can produce various types of contents, including text, imagery, audio, and synthetic data. All this were explained earlier, but some may ask, what is this particular term's synthetic data? I think text, imagery, audio are pretty straightforward, right? But synthetic data, what is that? So synthetic data, think of it as something useful to train AI model, right? So if I want to train an AI model to detect ice cream on a restaurant table so that a robot can come and clean the ice cream on the table when being detected, the machines, the AI machines, the detection machine need to know the different scenario of an ice cream that is on the table itself. Example, a big chunk of ice cream on the table, a small chunk of ice cream on the table, an ice cream drop on the left corner of a table, or ice cream drop on the top right corner of a table. All this needs to be detected by the AI, and data is needed to train it. Of course, the old ways of training the data is to basically take photos of the various scenarios, right? Of the ice cream on the top left corner, on the top right corner, and then of course on the a big chunk of ice cream, a small little drop of ice cream. All this you can take photos of it and then train the model. But recent development uses synthetic data, so to speak. What it means that you just need to, for example, analyze just one drop of the ice cream, right? And you regenerate the various scenario of the ice cream. Remember the small chunk of ice cream and the big chunk of ice cream? You just use that one photo of one snapshot of the ice cream. You stretch using AI to stretch the image to make the ice cream bigger so that it looks bigger on the table or smaller on the table. You use AI to rotate the ice cream positions around the table, and each iteration produces a new set of data that can be used to train AI. So in another word, you can even say that AI can generate new data to teach itself, so to speak. So how does Gen AI works? Firstly, as I mentioned earlier on, Gen AI basically starts with a prompt. A prompt is just a few letter text. Of course, it can be also in the form of audio files, image, a video, a design notes. And of course, a mixture of it can be used to input to AI to generate, to create new media or new content for you. Now, the various AI algorithm, right, used by different Gen AI application, whether is it ChatGPT, whether is it Gemini, or whether is it Cloud, for example, right, they use different algorithm and they return new content in response to the prompt itself. So the content, the output basically can be an essay, a long essay, a short essay. It can be a message, a short message for WhatsApp, a long message for your email, or it can be a solutions to a problem, whether is it a coding problem or is it a physics problem. And very unsettling, of course, is the recent, it can actually create fake images from a photo, from a pictures of a person collected on the public web itself. Now that also raise up the cybersecurity threat, so to speak. Because of this, with fake personalities, fake images, you can actually do social engineering and compromise the security of various organizations. Now, something light for this section. Here is a fun history of AI evolution. I just want to call out, AI did not happen overnight. It is many years in the making. Example, you can see that in 1932, researcher uses mechanical computer in the form of punch cards to translate language. Of course, I will assume the languages is very simple, short languages, but it's using mechanical computer, you see. So that was one of the beginning of AI. But of course, along the way, there are other milestones, developments in the AI revolution. But I want to just call out the fact that you notice that 1932, 1957, there's various milestones, but you realize that, hey, after 2000, right, the milestones, the kind of achievement around AI start to increase, right? Why is it there are so many breakthrough after the year 2000? Of course, you know that AI can only be as powerful and useful if it has a lot of data to train. And what happens during the year 2000, around the year 2000, right? We know there is the internet being kicked in, right, to the world. Of course, internet is during the 90s, mid-90s or late 90s. But 2000 marks also the beginning of faster internet access. Along the way, of course, reaches 2006 where the broadband starts coming into a picture. Now, why is this significant, right? You not only have data made available, text made available with the internet during the 2000, but with the broadband, you also introduced different media of informations to researcher. You have what you call that videos, you have audio files, you have many pictures, for example, all made available to the world researchers interested in AI. Now, this chart illustrates the rapid rise of ChatGPT. It achieved 100 million global active users in just 2 months itself, comparing to 9 months for TikTok. And the next nearest competitor, Instagram, actually took about 30 months to reach 100 million active users. The way they define active users is they use the product at least once a month, right, continuously, to be considered as active users. So ChatGPT is gaining tractions worldwide. It highlights the unprecedented global tractions for this product. Now, before I move on to ChatGPT, which is one of the Gen AI application, I just want to call out, hey, in general, right, Gen AI application, what are those? First, you can think of Gen AI application. One of the application is the text to image translation. So just now I mentioned, right, you basically, Gen AI requires a prompt. So one of the prompt is text. You can use text, you just prompt the AI to generate certain images, say the city, a picture of New York City, for example, right? Then an image is being generated, as you can see, for example, on the right hand side. Now, then you also have Gen AI to do image to image translation. What does that mean? Basically, you want maybe the pictures, the prompt in the form of a picture to be translated into another picture, but you want it to be in another form. For example, maybe the style of Van Gogh, right? Vincent Van Gogh. Then it will generate an image that looks like the brush strokes looks like Vincent Van Gogh for the same picture. Or you can see in this example here, you input some images and then you want to translate into sketches, right? A simple sketches as shown on the top here. So image to image translation. Of course, you can translate from example a grayscale image to full color scale images, right? Now, All this technology, of course, we can do it manually, but with AI, it do it tremendously fast. Of course, another unsettling thing about application about AI is the fake image generation. I like to point out, you can see on the right hand side, on the bottom corner, right corner, you see that there is two person, one male, one female, but you notice that their body movement is the same itself, right? The hand is holding pointing up, the other one is pointing sideways, and this is a way of generating. Of course, you can say that this emulate the generated image emulate the interested object, so to speak. But at the same time, if you think deviously, you can actually generate a fake image of a person trying to communicate to another person, for example, in distress mood, right? You can act yourself to be very in a distress mode and create some scenario that can spam people. So that's one application. Of course, then there are other applications that I earlier mentioned, that using a prompt, whether it's in the form of text, audio, video, or image, or a combination of image and video, for example, you can actually generate more content in the same format, whether is it more images or more video itself. And of course, you also can use Gen AI to generate more data sets for you to train specific AI use cases. Now, of course, the last thing is what I think everyone knows about is chatbots. One of the common chatbot that we have been using and been talking about is ChatGPT, which comes from Google, and now known as Gemini, which is which is Google, and of course, there's Copilot from Microsoft itself. Now, moving on, we explore Gen AI using the context I am familiar with, something that is close to my heart, which is on education. Now, I just want to call out this technology isn't just reshaping how we teach and learn. It changes the personalized engagement across industry, not just the education industry. But first, let's dive into the education mode. You realize that Gen AI can create lesson plans and assessment tailored for individual student needs, hence a personalized kind of engagement with the user. And Gen AI make this possible, enable educator to provide a personalized learning experience that cater to the unique abilities of every student. Now, it doesn't stop just by customization. Gen AI streamlines some of the very burdensome, very repetitive tasks that educator face daily. From grade assessment to crafting details, lesson plans, AI can kind of automate or simplify these processes, freeing educator to focus on what truly matters, teaching and inspiring students. Now, to broaden the horizons, as I mentioned, Gen AI is not confined to the sectors alone. Imagine you apply this technology to the corporate world, right? Everyone faces new staff, right? Hire new staff. New staff requires more trainings, or staff that move on, right? That upskills themselves to a higher position. There's transition involved. There's also handover of complex projects. Now, all this can be made seamless with AI, right? Because you can create certain content, whether it's a handover document, that there's a very personalized kind of documents to teach, to train the staff. Now, in essence, Gen AI is a bridge to a future where personalized and efficiencies is being uplifted to every aspects of our educational and also professional life. whether is it nurturing the next generation of learners or onboarding the new employee, the possibilities are endless. Now, there are many Gen AI tools. Okay, the one that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with is ChatGPT. Now, ChatGPT shines in versatile conversational AI tasks. It has many capability. Okay, now the other one would be the next AI tool will be Bing Chat, now known as Copilot. Basically, Copilot also is being powered by ChatGPT. It it changes the way we interact with human-like responses and also provides detailed footnotes for source credibility. So if you use Copilot, right, whether it's in the mobile apps or in the web version, whatever response they give you, right, there is actually the source. There's a URL placed there where are the source of the response comes from. You can click on it and you can read it for yourself whether is it reliable or not. So that is one of the cool features about Copilot. Now next is Bard by Google, now known as Gemini. Its main goal is to retrieve informations, okay, from various online pages, web pages, and it presents to you in a very simplified response, like a digital assistance such as the Alexa and Siri. Now it is even more with Gemini. They have been emphasizing that Gemini is being trained using the multi-modal large language models in its responses. Basically, it not only uses text, okay, from the internet, it uses videos and uses audio files, pictures to train its model to give the response in a much relevant, much more powerful manner. Lastly, there is the Cloud, which distinguishes itself for coding support, content summarizations, and optimized writing, cater to specific tasks. Now, I just want to add on, right? There's many tools available, right? There's a recent review I found it interesting is that which compare the ChatGPT, Gemini, and Cloud about the various power of the AI model. Okay, they say that Google Gemini excels in creativity aspect. Okay, it can come up with generate very new good ideas, and also its model capability, right? So you can also generate images, videos easily. Now the next thing is ChatGPT. It talks about it's powered by deep learning. It uses Microsoft Azure. It shines also in the multi-models task. The accuracy is not too bad, and there's a lot of improved safety and factual content delivery. So ChatGPT has been learning since the first launch to the market, where they talk about the hallucinations, things like that. They have been addressing it in the subsequent version 4 versus the version 3. And Cloud, of course, as mentioned, it prioritizes safety and ethics. It knows and is known for its interactive writing. So you can think of it as it can role play easily, it can interact with the users and generate new content much easier. Now, each AI has unique strength. With Gemini, focus on creative writings, ChatGPT on versatile and safety, while Cloud on ethics and safety-focused application. I must say that this Gen AI applications, tools, is a very dynamic landscape. The various models used by Microsoft, OpenAI, Google is improving all the time. Just to give you an example, right? ChatGPT earlier on give response without citations, right, on the source of this information. And I mentioned earlier that Bard, or known as Gemini now, has already by then actually has a solution with citation, with URL linked, where the response comes from. Now, the recent ChatGPT 4, if you notice that the citations is being placed in its response, not very obvious, but it's in a small some very light green symbols if you use it at this point of time, right? So I encourage everyone to really try out the various AI. Okay, I think most of the AI tools like ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini are very good. Okay, but it's just a matter of the user interface, whether it for you as a user, does it suit you well better. Okay, this is something that is why something for you to explore and find out about. For me, I just use ChatGPT, but that is just me itself now. Moving to ChatGPT, how it works. Just now, we've been talking a lot about how Gen AI works. Now we look at ChatGPT as a Gen AI tool, how it actually functions, right? One thing I like to call out is ChatGPT, whether is it the version 3 or version 4, it trains on a large amount of text and code from the internet itself. Okay, now, according to, we never review exactly what are the sources of data, whether is it mainly the open source data or is it just public websites, right? We do not know, but one thing for sure, it can be, why the response of ChatGPT is so relevant is because there is a large amount of text and content being taken to train it. Now, if you use ChatGPT 3.5 at the start, right, it always highlight this point that the data that they use is before a certain year. Is it 2021 or 2022? Of course, I'm sure in the later version, this timeline will shift, right? So in a way, one must take on the caveat that, hey, ChatGPT is really good at some static data. If you want the latest dynamic data, ChatGPT may not be the most relevant, powerful tool for it. Okay, but having said that, right, you realize that ChatGPT was being bought over by Microsoft. And Microsoft has been, over the past 12 months, been trying to incorporate some of its functions with ChatGPT and vice versa, right? ChatGPT function into its product. Now, one of the things that ChatGPT do by incorporating Microsoft usage is using Bing, right? In the ChatGPT 4.0 version, if you were to search for some latest information, for example, you ask ChatGPT using this prompt called, I'd like to know the latest stock price of Tesla. Remember, I earlier mentioned that ChatGPT actually you have a cutoff point in terms of its data. It's usually 2021 or 2022. With a prompt like asking the latest stock price, ChatGPT actually is smart enough to know that the user didn't specify a date, but by its context, they are asking for the latest stock price, which ChatGPT itself doesn't have it. So what it does is ChatGPT activate Bing and went into the search engine to search for the Tesla stock price. And from there, ChatGPT analyze the search result and extract out the relevant information of the stock price and show it to the user. Okay, so that is one thing that ChatGPT work around in the what do you call that, in the limited data that it has, right? When I say limited, it's because it's using a certain year of data. So the workaround is using like Microsoft product to do it now then. But of course, the downside of it is you notice that whenever it activates Bing to find out the latest information, right, it takes a while. The response may take half a minute to 1 minute. Some of you may find it too long, right? In the world where we need instant gratification, where we need the data to be quickly available for us, right? So this is the first thing that ChatGPT do, right? It trained itself with large text and code. Next is ChatGPT learns pattern and ways that humans talk to each other. So a point to note is ChatGPT basically use large language model, right, to train itself, right, to kind of absorb the data and then to learn from it. So basically, a lot of times ChatGPT will always try to predict the next word based on the prompt. For whatever prompting it gives, it try to predict the next word, it generate the next word and try to be as accurate as possible. And in doing so, they also try to make it pattern the way human talks, right? So that is another point to note on how ChatGPT works itself. Next is ChatGPT also fine-tuned to generate more natural sounding human responses. Again, just now I mentioned the large language model that is using is always trying to be very natural in terms of the responses. And finally, ChatGPT can perform a variety of tasks, of human-like tasks to help you at work. Treat it as your personal assistant, your PA, right? The only point is that your PA, your ChatGPT, is like your mini Einstein, right? It can respond to you on any subjects, on any matters very quickly. It's very smart, okay, in doing the human-like tasks, right, when asking questions. But at the same time, right, how well it functions will depend on how well you ask the questions. It boils down to how you communicate. Remember just now I started off with the starting communication. The code on it changes the way we communicate with machine. The code by Andrew, right? ChatGPT can perform human-like tasks, but only if you know how to communicate with this PA, this personal assistant, in the most optimized manner. Unfortunately, this is not just a pure kind of science. Prompt engineering techniques is not just science itself. It's an art of science. It's involved both art and science in finding the balance to quickly find out the right solutions from your ChatGPT. Now we know that how ChatGPT works. We now look at some of the things we should be cautious of when using ChatGPT. For example, as you can see at the start here, you should never enter any confidential sensitive information, whether is it members' details or unannounced policy into ChatGPT. It is still a public platform after all. Now, here I would like to highlight cyber security risk, right? About this point, about putting personalized details like credit card information. What is the risk? Security of AI system. The AI model themselves, like ChatGPT, needs to be secure against attack aimed at stealing the model, altering its output, through data poisoning or exploiting vulnerability in AI system to gain unauthorized access to system or information. ChatGPT, if it gets hacked, your personalized information that you shouldn't put in actually can be made known to hackers, and hackers can use it to compromise your organization, right? Especially when you use ChatGPT in your organization domains, right, in the environment itself. So that is one security risk that Mr. Chua will be sharing with you in the next topic. Now, the next thing that you shouldn't do is to be so-called accepting the information from ChatGPT as the latest information. Remember, there's sometimes a cutoff date for the data that they are trained at. So ChatGPT used to have this hallucination problem. They make up facts about events that happens after the 2021, where is the cutoff date for the data training of this model. So that's one thing to know. Now, the other thing is you should always be cautious. You should do fact check when it comes to the responses for ChatGPT, especially those you find it a bit dubious or a bit something that you feel uncomfortable with. Please make sure you do some fact check, cross-reference with online sources. And next is watch out for biased data, right, from ChatGPT. Here, of course, in the slide, it highlights the example of asking ChatGPT why CPF can't be used for healthcare. Now, by asking this question, right, the ChatGPT actually responds by assuming the statement is true. So in itself, the response already have made a biased assumption because you provide a biased kind of prompting also, right? Here, moving on in this section, we explore ChatGPT use cases for professionals. This segment shows how Gen AI, not just an emerging technology trend, but is rapidly being integrated into the office and business communication, which I'll share with you shortly, such as WhatsApp, Microsoft Teams, and Telegram, right? You can actually generate content to be used on those platforms. The first use case will be writing assistance. So ChatGPT stands out as a reliable assistance for crafting emails, reports, and proposal. Its capability to understand context and generate coherent text makes it a very invaluable asset for professionals aiming to enhance their written communication. So that's one use case. Later, I'll share an example how it looks like. Next use case is it helps to summarize long text. In today's fast-paced professional world, okay, efficiency is key. ChatGPT can distill extensive documents, research papers, very detailed reports to concise summaries, allowing us executives to do quick comprehensions, make decision fast. Now, on a humorous side, right, of things, I think this will be one of the most frequently used feature because you will see longer emails from your colleagues who just started to use ChatGPT and they forgot to use prompting such as keywords like succinct, short emails, for example, and it generates long emails that you will need to read. So with this ChatGPT, you can help to summarize all the content that is in your inbox. It brings sanity to you in your office. Now, the next use case will be pair programming. Now, for pair programming, basically, it is for technical professionals, IT software developers, programmers to use it as a virtual colleague to offer coding suggestions, debugging, and even writing code snippets. This collaboration with your little instance or your so-called your PA can really significantly speed up the development process and improve code quality. Now, of course, there are also other interesting use cases in point 4 and 5, such as generating ideas, where you can use it for brainstorming sessions. ChatGPT can be a source of inspiration, ideas for your project, step-by-step marketing campaigns, or innovative strategies, helping you to come up with creative thinking and problem-solving methods. Now, besides generating ideas, of course, ChatGPT can simulate conversation, very useful for the customer service industry, for the customer service department, obviously, for companies that is in e-commerce, for example. It's also useful for creating sales strategy, for generating a conversation role play to test out your sales strategy. ChatGPT can simulate realistic conversation, providing professionals, providing executives with a sandbox to refine their communication skills or develop their own chatbots to interact with their customers or even with their internal partners, right? So, in summary, right, the integration of ChatGPT or Gen AI into everyday business promises big changes to how we work, communicate, and innovate. Now, moving to writing assistance. One of the first use case that I mentioned earlier on for Gen AI or ChatGPT itself as a tool, right, is it can use as a writing assistant when you start off with not much on hand in terms of your content. You want to write a piece of content, but you don't have much to begin with, or you have already some content, okay, a fairly complete content. So these two scenarios can use ChatGPT to improve your writing. So here is an example, right? To write an email from scratch by providing some context, like for example here you can see is the context will be a formal email to supervisor. It's about budget, it's about meeting tomorrow, and so on. And you ask ChatGPT to provide a crafted email with the title, of course, given automatically, and the content of the email itself. Here you can see that you can have a first cut of your email being drafted out to the user. For example, me, who wanted this email to my supervisor requesting approval for my presentation. Now, I can, of course, subsequently refine my email that ChatGPT responded with by saying, hey, could you make it less formal? You, of course, I'm referring to ChatGPT. When you're having that prompting, right, it's like a conversation with your PA, personal assistant. Could you make it more formal? So you see all the difference, you see the red box. I quickly highlight some of the red box. The email actually becomes less formal. Instead of dear, you use hey, would it be possible, instead of I'm happy to schedule, and then instead of best regard, it becomes best, a less formal way of writing an email. Now, you can also ask ChatGPT to reply to an inquiry, right? In it. So it's very useful for people in the service industry, right, where they need to answer customer query, right? you ask ChatGPT to come up with an answer in it. Now, the second way of improving your draft, remember, imagine you already have some content at hand, but you want it to be written much better because you feel that your communication is not really very optimized to the audience, to the scenario that you are intending to write it to. So you can ask ChatGPT to write, to fix also grammar mistakes that you always have it in your communication, and to also manually tweak the output from your revised version. So here is an example of a pre-written draft. You notice that the pre-written draft is put on top, and then at the bottom of your prompt, right, that is where you put your request inside, asking ChatGPT to improve the draft, right? And then of course here you can see the improved version of ChatGPT. Now for some of you, you will prefer to put the request on top and the draft email below. Either way it will work. ChatGPT is smart enough, can contextualize your prompt. Now moving on, ChatGPT also summarizes the long text, right? Another application of ChatGPT. Now you can ask ChatGPT to extract key information, simplify for you, change the format, make it into point form, make it very easy for you to understand. Here you can see how it summarizes the content, right? It uses TLDR, basically it's too long to read. Too long didn't read, right? So this is a short form to summarize the content that you receive and you want to make it short. Another way, of course, is to say, ask ChatGPT in the prompt, say, summarize the following content in maybe a 50 words or 100 words, or just say summarize it into point form like shown on the right hand side of the screenshot. Now, here next is a useful use case is pair programming. Now, you can throw in existing programming codes for chat and ask ChatGPT to troubleshoot for you. Or you can prompt ChatGPT to generate new codes in certain programming language to do certain functions, which I'll share with you shortly how it looks like. So here is one example asking, right? Here you ask ChatGPT to solve the error in your codes, right? Basically you throw in the codes, but before that you put the prompt there, the request saying, if you ask ChatGPT, hey, how do I handle the errors in this code, right? Or you can tell them, please handle the errors in this call, for example, right? And then ChatGPT comes up with a response. It says that, hey, to handle the errors, you can use the catch when called, and then here's an example you can write on, for example, right? This is one way. Next is basically you can solve your coding error, right? ChatGPT is a very good debugging tool, right? It can point out the issues for you, where is the problem. Here you can see the prompt says any issue with the code, and then you throw in your code, and then your ChatGPT will say that, hey, there are some issues with your code itself, right? And it will tell you in summary, this code will probably not work as intended, and so on and so forth. Now, of course, some of us is lazy. We just don't want to debug. We want ChatGPT to solve the problem, the bug itself. Yes, ChatGPT can also do that as shown here. You say that, can you ask ChatGPT to fix the problem for you? And then ChatGPT say yes, it can fix the problem, and then it comes up with the code itself, right? Now, another way that ChatGPT is your technical consultant, right, in software development is it can ask ChatGPT to explain what the code is all about. I mean, I use it for my lesson. I teach my students to do that. You throw in some codes and ask ChatGPT, what does can you explain the code to me? And ChatGPT will just tell you, hey, based on the code that you provide, right? What is this code about? What does it do, for example, right? And what are the key variables that is being used, right? So it's a very good way for user to understand the codes, for programmer to understand the code and also to customize better, right? Echoing some of the programmers' pain point. Sometimes they do not come up with their codes. They inherit a bunch of codes from their their previous programmer, for example, and they will try to understand it right manually, one line by line, but ChatGPT can help to summarize it. So that is one usage. Now, finally, there's another useful thing I want to call out is reviewing the code. You can ask ChatGPT to perform a code review, right? Well, this is useful if you intend to interview a coder, for example, by asking them to say, hey, do certain programming question, ask them to provide the answer, and then you use ChatGPT to analyze their answer in terms of their structure, in terms of their style, their readability, right? And from there, you will know that, hey, based on the review, right, from ChatGPT, you can quickly see that, hey, this coder, what are the things, are they good at what they code, or they are really not good at what they code, right? Of course, here, here's another example. Even though ChatGPT gives you some comments, you review the codes that you input, right? They give you some recommendation, right? ChatGPT can also provide solutions, right? They don't just say, oh, you should do this and should do that, but it actually provides you with the actual solutions, right? To solve or to be better. Now, you can also ask ChatGPT to write codes for you. Using the prompting, right, you can ask ChatGPT to say that, hey, you are trying to solve certain problem, come up with a code and do it. And here is the example. You give a request and they come up with the code itself. Okay, the next is generating new ideas. I think here most of you have seen me talking about it, that you can use prompts to create new ideas, whether is it come up with ideas to overcome budget constraint, do a better marketing campaign, and so on. Here is an example of come up with idea to do team bonding activities, and of course you can refine it with coming up with more context to refine your ideas. And of course, ChatGPT can also provide step-by-step guide to your marketing campaigns, right? You can actually ask ChatGPT to do some of the suggestion in campaigns strategy, what are the steps needed. And of course, I mentioned earlier on is simulating conversation. You can actually can do role play with ChatGPT, right? You can ask ChatGPT to have a difficult conversation. What kind of difficult conversation? Example, performance review. You need to break out the bad news about this staff is underperforming, and how do you prepare yourself in that difficult conversation? Here's an example. You simulate a conversation using ChatGPT, using some prompting, and then from there it can you tell them you can only start the conversation with you starting the talk with the ChatGPT in that conversation. And of course, you can see all the conversation being initiated by you and then followed by the ChatGPT and so on, right? And at the end, you can actually ask ChatGPT to say that, hey, to give feedback on how you handle the conversation itself based on the response towards ChatGPT answer, right? So you can ask ChatGPT to give you that feedback. And not only it gives you some feedback, it also can give you recommendation what exactly examples of what exactly you can do for some of this difficult conversation. Not just about performance review, but customer service support team, right, to difficult clients itself. So there's a lot of techniques involved in prompt engineer. So how do you be a better prompt engineers, right? So firstly, as I mentioned, it's art of science. Okay, you need to basically be clear. Okay, a well-crafted prompt will leave no room for ambiguity. So you need to ask, for example, instead of saying, tell me about outer space, you try to use more context. Say, what are the key milestones in space exploration from 1960s to 2020, for example. This will narrow down and give a very clear timeline of your questions that you want, right? And of course, providing context and details, right? Telling users with more details, more context, like as I mentioned, say, let's say you want some information about Victorian England. You can ask ChatGPT to frame your prompt with specific points like describe a daily life and the social norm in Victorian England, and ChatGPT will give you more answers to it. And of course, there are also ways that you can make the prompt better by specifying your target audience. Okay, if you are a teacher crafting a lesson, you can tell your prompt saying, as a Polytechnic lecturer, give me a simplified explanation of IoT for students of age 17, right? You specify your audience. Of course, you can also add more further instructions to your prompts. They will provide better answers. And lastly, right, you can change the format of your of the response given by ChatGPT. You can tell them present the nutritional value of apples versus orange in a table formats or in the point forms. Then the response will be easier to read and comprehend for communication. Finally, in the last slide, as I mentioned that ChatGPT is an art of science, right? There's no fixed rule for success. Neither will there be it will be a smooth ride for you. There will be times when you need to troubleshoot. So when you are facing some difficulty, right? How do you troubleshoot your ChatGPT prompting when you don't get the answer that you want? One is, of course, be precise in your request. Check, okay, I think check your input for mistake. Did you actually put in wrong input, right? You talk to your PA, right? If you give wrong instruction, the PA, of course, will provide you with wrong answers. So make sure you check the input, and also to provide sufficient context and examples. And if all fails, right, initiate a new chat. Remember, ChatGPT, right, is every conversation is a thread, right? So if you continuous to ask questions on this same thread, right, ChatGPT will be based on that particular thread conversation history, right? So if you are providing more and more errors or more and more less and less optimized kind of prompting, right, it will be better off to start off with optimized prompting, a new thread. Okay, so hopefully this will give you some quick ways to troubleshoot your ChatGPT. With this, I think I would like to conclude my segment and would like to hand over to the next speaker, Mr. Chua, for his presentation. Thank you, everyone.